Marvel Rivals has a bit of a design problem, and I'm gonna fix it. Now, some of you may say, wait, I haven't heard of this. Well, TLDR, it's Overwatch, but modded to have a bunch of Marvel characters fighting for the multiverse because what's originality these days? But the game has a fundamental issue. Its design. And by that I mean its character design. Now, when I think of superheroes, I think of their iconic designs, the simplistic, colorful details that can be drawn by anyone on a whim. Sure, it's not the craziest thing, but there's a reason to why it's iconic, and it's because of the whimsical feeling it gives for these larger-than-life characters. There's nothing wrong with trying to ground them, as long as you don't lose that sense of wonder. But in the case of Marvel Rivals, it takes what's iconic and complicates it to where it starts to lose that sense of fantasy. The overall comic-esque aesthetic is great, but these character designs are either good to very mid to trash. For example, Scarlet Witch, Star-Lord, Punisher, etc. all have great designs, but when you start to look at other characters, you start to notice how over-designed they are. This overcomplication makes these characters lose their visual identity, as the designs are homogenized rather than showing off what makes each character special. But rather than yapping about why some of these designs are bad, I'm pulling an Uno reverse and redesigning them to bring back that whimsical feeling that makes these characters iconic. I'll be on top of yapping about them. Just keep in mind, I'm not a professional designer or artist, but I want to do what I can to give life to the world of Marvel Rivals. So let's start off slowly before getting into more drastic changes, and there's no one better than the invincible Iron Man. Now, for the most part, it's decent. With a character like Iron Man, over-designing typically works because he's mechanical, but I'm sorry, this suit just isn't working for me. For some reason, his upper half is blocky, which doesn't fit with the sleeker design of his legs and forearms, while also failing to properly break up some of the colors on his suit, where he starts to look like a sci-fi fire hydrant. The design mainly looks decent because of the game's style, and if it wasn't for that, it would be kinda bad. But why not take my own crack at it? Due to his chest piece, I took inspiration from his Extremis suit and his original 616 design while making some aspects more simplistic, and this is ultimately what I came up with. It's not super different from the original, but it's enough to where I feel like it's an iconic Iron Man suit. Up next, we have the Parker from Another Mother, Peni Parker, which is also not a bad design. I have no issue with Spider though, he looks sick. My issue is with Penny. Now, for some reason, her face is really squished together, and her overall face shape just doesn't match the rest of her body. It looks like somebody put a baby's head on a full-grown woman. In the comics, she typically wears her school uniform, but I guess here they just threw her into Evangelion. It's not bad per se, it's just a bland suit that could be taken from whatever other video game. She just needs more color to make her design stand out more and to look more like Spider-Man rather than a Diva clone. For redesigning her, I fixed the shape of her head and added a spider emblem on her suit with additional colored pieces to make her suit stand out more. And speaking of standing out, there's no one more flamboyant than the god of mischief Loki. Now, they were definitely cooking with that fur cape, but I really can't say the same for the rest of his design, and it sucks because you can see a perfectly good design under all that black stuff. The game creators were just like, nah, let's just throw in a bunch of black, it'll totally look good for our original design. Right, guys? Heck, we'll even throw in a chin strap and some drapes, and people will love it! It'll look amazing! Yeah, no. The best way I can fix this is just removing these pointless details and having Loki appear as his best royally fashionable self. But unfortunately, that's not what the doctor ordered. And speaking of which, Dr. Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, is kinda bad. And okay, the Cloak of Levitation and the Eye of Agamotto is really cool, but everything else, yeah, not so much. It's this over-detailed, lifeless-looking costume, which isn't fit for the literal Sorcerer Supreme of the universe. Like, how do you cook with Scarlet Witch, but fumble it here? Rather than black cloth and brown leather, make the character more vibrant and mythical and lean into it. You can still make Doctor Strange look practical while looking mystical, just look at the MCU. They did it, so I'm gonna do it too. And I tried going for a mix of the movies and the comics, which keeps it mythical but grounded. And with grounded heroes, there's no one better than the Amazing Spider-Man. And yikes, it's bad. Like, yes, I get it's a modernistic approach, but there's so much going on, and it's starting to make my eyes burn the longer that I look at it. It seems like the upper half is a more classic design, but then the lower half is this weird militaristic design with platform shoes. So it's this weird disjointed mix that clashes with one another. So for my design, I tried going for a more classic approach, making the colors pop more and streamlining it to where it's iconic, but adding additional details to where it isn't just the classic red and blue. Now, obviously there's some personal preferences involved when designing these characters, but I do think this game has a concerning issue with how it handles its designs. And it's not just the 5 I mentioned, there's more which I didn't feel like covering, but they all have similar problems. If you already like the game's designs, then kudos to you. I'm not gonna diss your taste, but with how rich the comics, movies, and animated series have been for Marvel, I wish they put more attention into designing them. I'm all for new takes on classic characters, but there's a limit for how you do it, and this game struggles to do so. These classic characters shouldn't be reduced to some over-designed mess trying to mimic the designs of other video games, but rather ones with clear love for the character and their history. And while yes, this game has skins which do tap into its history, it costs money. Or early access to get them, and I for one don't like spending money on microtransactions within games, and I bet some of you feel the same. While I'm most likely going to play this game when it's launched on console, I still think these designs are a disservice to what they're trying to achieve and to the legacies of these iconic characters. If you made it this far, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content I'm making. This is Balthazar, signing off.